Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. I, of course, am here with your daily mortgage rate update. The only place on the web where you can come live each and every weekday morning on either Facebook or on YouTube, join the show, talk about what's going on with rates and pricing. Today's an exciting day. We're seeing rates recover today. We'll talk about why. There's two reasons. Let me know in the comments if you can guess what they are. Two reasons rates are improving today. We'll go over, why they're improving, if we think it's going to stick around, what happens next, if we should lock our float. We'll be talking all about that. So if you're here this morning, say good morning. If you're watching on the replay, don't forget, give me hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. Let Facebook and YouTube know that you were here. If you're on Facebook, don't forget to smash that like button. The little thumbs up over there. Tag an LO friend in the post. Help me to grow this thing, share this out there. Maybe share it in a group. Click the little share button, share it in one of those mortgage groups, Mortgage Pub, Mortgage Loan Officer Network, Brokers Are Best, anything there. I appreciate you doing that. I really do. If you're on YouTube, please make sure to go ahead and give us a comment. If you're watching on the replay, make sure that you comment as well. It helps with the algorithm. We're starting to pick up some steam on YouTube, but you guys could help me to get in front of more originators there as well by making sure you take a minute to comment and give a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe as well. If you would like a reminder that I am going live each day, you can go ahead and get a text alert, www.hmmr.io/reminder. That's the Hammer Solutions short code, hmmr.io/reminder. Get a free text, and you can, of course, unsubscribe at any time, but I let you know that I'm going live. You can also use this cool QR code over here. If you're on your phone now, take a screenshot. Go back to your photos. You'll be able to use that QR code. I think that's so cool. I love that phones have finally adapted the software to use QR codes properly. They had such promise a few years ago, but you just couldn't use them. So anyway, that's enough of me rambling and babbling about that. Let's say hi to all of my friends here this morning, all the live folks that are here. Good morning, Megan Lindberg. First one to say hello this morning. Kyle Mazikas, great to see you, sir. Michael Love, thank you for joining me. Randy Tico, giddy up, my friend. Great to have you here. James Mahan, good morning, sir. Hope all is well in Nexa World. Ron Siegel, good morning. Today is National Cherry Cheesecake Day. National Cherry Cheesecake Day. Let's throw a question of the day up around that. Let us ask you, what is your favorite flavor of cheesecake? I would go with strawberry. I like, or raspberry is usually very common on cheesecake. So what is your favorite flavor of cheesecake? Let me know in the comments. Appreciate you doing that. We'll circle around at the end and talk about everyone's favorite flavor. We'll come back to that. So Monica Dinkins, Taylor Henry, good morning. Amy Blauser, great to have you here, my friend. Will Patterson, good morning, sir. Angela Walters, great to see you. Will Patterson again, tagging Cecilia. Thank you, Will. Appreciate you, sir. Mike Brown, good morning. Charlie Badita, what's up, man? Hope all is well in Ohio. Candido Diaz up in the Northeast, representing in the house. Cole Kazmarski, good to see you. That's a new name, Cole. I don't know. Is this your first time watching? Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Allison Foy, Allison, wonderful to have you here. Cindy Pulliam, good morning. Debbie Richardson, great to have you all here as well. All right, let's go ahead and let's get started. Talk about what we got going on today. As I told you, today is a great day for mortgage-backed securities, for rates. Mortgage-backed securities currently up 66 basis points on the day. If we take a minute and look here at the 48-hour chart, it just rocketed straight up. Yesterday, let's kind of recap what happened yesterday. I'm going to just clean this up here. So we basically recap what happened yesterday. Let me throw this up on the screen. Mortgage-backed securities were at 98.71, 72, right around when rate sheets came out. They lost a little bit of ground in the afternoon, about 6 or 8 basis points. We still ended the day positive on the day, but we were down on the day from where we were when pricing came out. Not enough to trigger any reprices worse, but enough to just be a little frustrated that things were not moving. You can see it here in the Japanese candlesticks. However, this morning you've seen mortgage-backed securities have shot up, straight up. You can see the 10-year treasury yield. If we go ahead and bounce to that, you're going to see that has dropped with just as significant of a drop. So yesterday, the 10-year Treasury yield ended around 4.40, and this morning it's at 4.30. 4.27 now. It's actually improved since it opened. So what caused all of this? What do we have to be so excited about here? Well, again, rate sheets are going to be much better today. Let's start there. All right, rate sheets will be better today. However, it's important to note when you see this kind of movement in bonds, rate sheets get erratic. So depending on the lender, you're going to see some lenders that are passing along a lot more of these gains. Others are going to hold back a little bit, and you may see reprices better later in the day. So reprice risk today is high, but it's high in both directions. We could actually see things turn negative. I'll talk about that in a minute. But we could also see reprices better during the day. So let me go ahead and throw the lock advice up on the screen. And so here we go. So lock advice, cautiously float anything less than 30 days, float 30 plus. Okay, so here's the deal, and here's how this is going to play out. So let me throw this up on the screen. You want to be cautiously floating anything that's less than 30 days. We want to watch these gains and see where this goes this morning. So also, I want to clarify, because this market, we have not been able to really speculate where rates would be, even from day to day. It's been very difficult, and my stance has very much been that we need to see what the headlines bring. And in fact, let me go ahead and pop this up on the screen for you, and I'll see about making it a little bit bigger. All right, there we go. So if we take a look here, yesterday's wrap up, right, it kind of sums it up. Stocks had the best day in 2 weeks on hopes of de-escalation of trade with China. Or I'm sorry, de-escalation of the trade war with China, but didn't share the win with bonds, which lost ground from when pricing came out this morning. Remember, if you would like to get these text alerts through the day, we do a morning alert, an afternoon alert, as well as alerts when there's risks of reprice. You can go ahead and get those at ratetextalerts.com up on the screen in front of you there. So, but this was kind of the key. For now, expect rates to follow the headlines. All right. Expect rates to follow the headlines. And that's what we saw happen this morning. That's exactly where we are at. So the big headlines today, is basically here. Let's just open Bloomberg in a new window and we'll look at the just right off there. So U.S. bilateral U.S.-China tariffs have spiked. Trump floats substantial China tariff cuts in trade deal. Okay. So there's talk about a China trade deal. So that's number one. That's the very big thing moving rates this morning, seeing stocks rally and bonds following along. The other headline, Trump says he has no intention of firing Fed Chief Powell. So those are the two headlines today that are really need to catch your attention, and it's what we've got going on. If I go ahead and pull up my written lock advice, we'll kind of use that as a reference this morning. The quote of the day, because it is so apropos: to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often. That's what you have to do in this environment right now, is to change often. Advice at a glance would be cautiously floating anything less than 30 days, floating anything that's 30 days plus out. So that's kind of where I would be on this stuff and where we are. So I'm going to pop that back on the screen. All right. Rate sheets this morning will be much better, although some lenders may pass along more of the gains in MBS than others. Remember, lenders are not your enemy. They're not greedy. They're running companies. And this is a very difficult time to be in secondary, to be in the lock desk department when we have to navigate these rough storms. And they have to make sure that they're maintaining profitability. Of course, there's talk of how fat your rate sheet is and what the margins are. Regardless of that, whether you've got the thinnest margins or you're paying 7 layers of management, by the time it gets to the lock desk, their job is to run the hedging on those loans and actually make money. So reprice risk on the day is high. Bonds are off to an amazing start due to the headlines. And like I said, I even have it right here in the text. That's not the text. It's on a different screen. There you go. For now, expect rates to follow the headlines. And that was the problem, is that we don't know which way the headlines were going to go or will go. This morning, they're going to our favor. Again, the headlines very much being Trump floats substantial China tariff cuts in the trade deal. Trump says he has no intention of firing Fed Chief Powell. So we'll get into that in a little bit more. However, that means that if we see a change up in what is being fed to the media about substantial China tariff rate cuts, or if President Trump pulls back from a statement about never having had intentions of firing Fed Chair Jerome Powell, we could see the rally reverse as well. Two reasons behind today's gains. Number one, Trump basically said, nope, I'm not firing Jerome Powell. What he really said is let's go into... Here you go. So Trump says he has no intention of firing Fed Chief Jerome Powell. There's a caveat on this. There's an asterisk on this, though. President Donald Trump said he had no intention of firing Fed Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, despite his frustration with the central bank not moving more quickly to slash interest rates. Never did, Trump told reporters on Tuesday. The press runs away with things. I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates. Now, remember, this is out of the mouth of the same guy who tweeted on Truth Social that his termination couldn't come soon enough and called him a loser. So, we know Trump is mercurial. Again, not here to protect the feelings of those that love Trump anymore. I'm kind of tired of it. So, he could swap on this tomorrow. There was a really interesting article by this journalist, John Authors, who is an editor for markets and a Bloomberg opinion columnist. And he pointed out something here. He said, President Donald Trump's statement that Jerome Powell's termination as chairman of the Fed Reserve couldn't come soon enough set off another dose of market turmoil. And that's what we saw a lot of the movement yesterday, was because Trump doubled down on the idea that he was going to push Powell out, right? So, and then today he says, like I've said once already, right? The press runs away with things. No, I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates, but it would be unwise to think of this as a true turning point. And this is kind of what we have to be aware of, right? Raising the possibility of firing Powell was an unforced error in the first place, and the messaging suggests chaos. The White House press secretary had amplified Trump's criticism only hours earlier, while the actual announcement of hugely important market-sensitive information, basically the endorsement, I'll call it, of Powell, came ad hoc, meaning just, random, in response to a reporter's question. Would the issue have been cleared up without the question? And that's a great question. A further reason this shouldn't do much to restore confidence the administration knows what it's doing is there's a clear alternative waiting in the wings. Powell has to go away next year. He's up in 2026, I think May. The obvious replacement is Kevin Warsh, a former Fed governor, investment banker. Now, one thing I pointed out is that, Fed decision-making is a Federal Open Market Committee. There's 12 voting members. There's 19 Fed members. Of course, the Fed chair has a lot of influence. There's an argument that that the Fed chair can make, and I say he because it's Powell, but if the next one were to be female, I don't think it would be Michelle Bowman, even though Trump is a supporter of Bowman, because she's too hawkish and he can't control her. He's looking for somebody he can control. And this guy Warsh was a previous Fed governor. And see if it talks more about him. I forgot what his relation to Trump is, but it's said that Trump can influence him more. So hold on a second. So let's see what let's see what Ron was saying on here. Ron said the market gets played once again by Trump in the media. He says something off the cuff. The media goes berserk. The market reacts. He retracts. If we have our Tito's martini, chill and wait. Exactly. Randy said, what if we already locked last week? That's a great question. We'll come back to this in a minute, but I'll forget Randy's question. So if we take a look at mortgage bonds, Randy, what we see right now is mortgage-backed securities currently up about 56 basis points at 99.19 for the 5.5 coupon. Last Wednesday, we were at 99.22. So if we reference back, last Wednesday was what, the 17th, 16th. So if we reference back 6.86, 6.87, you should see rates improve about a quarter point today. This shows at 6.98 yesterday. So, I mean, a quarter point, it's going to be at least an eighth of a point to bring you back here. It should, I said a quarter point in the lock advice, because when you see a 50 basis point move, it should be about a quarter point. But I also think that rates were a little bit higher. This should bring us back to last week's levels for sure, is the answer. So if you locked last week, you're probably going to see rates very similar now to where we were last week. Being here again, when you see a 50 or 60 basis point move, that's generally about a quarter point in pricing, at least an eighth, and maybe a little extra rebate on top of that. So that should bring us back around where we were on Wednesday. On Thursday, things were just a hair worse. So you should be very much close to where you were last week to answer that question. Going back to Ron said, too bad the markets are following headlines instead of data and forecasts. Well, but we also argue that the data and forecasts are wrong, or that the Fed's not allowing. Again, I seem to be the only guy that thinks Fed Chair Jerome Powell does a good job. Everybody loves to piss on the guy. I think he's led the Fed through some amazing crises the last few years. Not only the obvious ones like COVID, but real government screw ups, shutting down the economy, their fiscal policy. And when, there was the regional banking issue in March of wasn't it March of last year? So, I mean, I think they've done, if not, it might've been March 2 years ago. I mean, it just goes quick. So, and yeah, exactly. Right. Is that quote on POTUS's desk? Let's see. Jerry said his backing off should help stabilize, I hope. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Randy said, has there ever been such an overt effect on markets by tweets? Yeah, absolutely. Last time that Trump was president, he's the one that uses social media more than anybody else, which gives him a feeling of connection to people, which is partly why he has such a strong following. Ron Siegel said, shortly after he used the term termination, one of his spokespeople said he meant termination was termination of Powell's term. The English language is a great thing. That's all how you use. We know the press will always go to the negative of everything he says. And it's funny too, Ron, when you say that, because Trump once before said, if I wanted Powell out, he'd be out. But when he called him a loser, I think that really kind of brought things there. So let's take a look at what's being said about the China part here. Let's jump over. That's the second thing, right? So the big thing on China, Trump floats substantial China tariff cuts in a trade deal. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's already come out and said that the standoff in the trade war with China is unsustainable on both sides, is actually what he said. President Trump said he plans to be very nice to China in any trade talks, and that tariffs will drop if the two countries can reach a deal. A sign he may be backing down from his tough stance on Beijing amid market volatility. It will come down substantially, but it won't be zero, Trump said Tuesday in Washington, following earlier comments from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent that the standoff was unsustainable. That's what I was just talking about a minute ago, where he had said that and was talking about that here. Trump added, we're going to be very nice, and they're going to be very nice, and we'll see what happens. I do love some of the way that Trump talks about things, though. It does really, I have to appreciate it. Trump also said he didn't see the need to play hardball with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, and that during discussions he wouldn't raise COVID-19, an issue politically sensitive in Beijing. The White House recently launched a website suggesting the virus came from a lab in China, irking the nation's diplomats. I don't know anything about that. But I definitely think it came from a lab in China. But I think the U.S. was also supporting that lab, and I think Fauci's a scumbag. So, but these are all feelings. I said I think and I feel. we need to move on because none of that affects mortgage rates anymore. I'm also still bitter after the way that the pandemic was handled on so many levels. So we don't need to go there. It's not going to make me popular. I'll lose followers and friends. It's, as I constantly tell all of you guys in Grab and Go Social, cover your belly button, focus on writing checks and cashing checks and not your emotional baggage. Right. So, Ron said, remember, markets always overreact. We're starting to see a bit of retracement in bonds. And yeah, that's why the lock advice very much focused on what may or may not happen here. We were up 60 basis points as we started this. It's already starting to lose ground. You're seeing some selling. So it's, still up 50 basis points, but that's why, you want to, as we get close to the end of the day, let me bring up what I have on the written lock advice here. I said for loans closing less than 15 days, start the day cautiously floating. Depending on how much improvement rate sheets you get, still consider locking by day's end. We don't know what each day will bring, right? That's the thing. This could all be gone tomorrow. All you need, Trump is mercurial and he will flip-flop in a heartbeat. He doesn't care. He'll turn around and say that he's going to fire, Powell and nobody could stop him tomorrow and markets will freak out again. So, as Ron pointed out, markets are always overreacting and this whole thing there. That's the thing. So I was looking to see what Ron said about the transitory inflation debacle. He is late always. They are slower to react, but again, it doesn't mean that I'm going to necessarily fault them for all of that. They were more proactive about lowering rates in September. So loans closing in 15 to 30 days, cautiously float. For this kind of move, you should see rates at least a quarter point better and rate not pricing. If you don't see that, be more likely to hold out and see where this rally goes. Loans that have that, though, should be wary of where rate sheets will go next and what has to happen to send them there. So as far as locking goes, again, in this environment, locking loans that were closing in less than 15 days, we have to be very protective. Remember, loans that have 15 to 30 days, we're a couple weeks away from the jobs data that's going to come out at the beginning of May for April's data. We're also going to see the May 7th Fed meeting. I haven't really gone into the Fed stuff in a while because it's been so mercurial, but taking a look here, there is zero expectation that we're going to see a Fed rate cut in the May meeting. But by June, markets believe, about 65%, 2/3 probability that we'll see a rate cut by June. And that door is going to be opened at the May meeting. So we could see things improve. Remember, though, rate cuts and Fed rate cuts not necessarily going to be very beneficial to mortgage bonds because rate cuts do speed up the economy, activate the economy, and they've already been priced into mortgage rates at some point. As far as the end of the year, we're at 4.25 still, 3 rate cuts, 4 rate cuts. So, I mean, markets are still pricing in 3 to 4 quarter point rate cuts between now and the end of the year. So they think markets are believing the Fed's going to have to prop up the economy as we head into the second half of the year. They're still looking at inflationary, and that's why these Fed rate cuts represent more, I'm not inflationary, recessionary, represent a weaker economy, weaker labor market, and that's what would help mortgage rates. So that's kind of where we're looking at as we head into that. So let's go ahead and answer your questions about anything else that you guys asked. Also, let's find out what was your favorite flavor of cheesecake, and then I'm going to wrap it up for today. So let's see what y'all had to say. What was your favorite flavor of cheesecake? If you didn't tell me the answer, go ahead. Myrnin. I don't even know what Myrnin is, Cole. What is Myrnin? I've never heard of that. Does anyone know what Myrnin is? Let me know in the comments if y'all know what Myrnin is. Ron Siegel likes peanut butter chocolate cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory. That's different than turtle? Turtle is caramel, isn't it? Strawberry and chocolate sauce. Sounds pretty good. Strawberry. Yeah, I love strawberry too. I'm with that. Strawberry cheesecake. I can see I'm not alone. Debbie, Amy, Michael, all loving some strawberry cheesecake. Michael Hunter is tiramisu cheesecake. I've never heard of such a thing. Another vote from Monica for strawberry cheesecake. And Cole, you get the emails. Well, welcome for the live for the first time. Glad to have you here, man. Ron tagging other LOs. Appreciate y'all when y'all tag LOs. Help us grow. Thank you. Strawberry with graham cracker crust. I love that, Randy. It's almost like graham cracker crust is awesome. Hello, Lisa. Great to see you, my friend. And we did have a good trip to Pittsburgh. Thank you. Definitely not cherry, strawberry, raspberry, or chocolate, though. I could go cherry, though. Looking for any other cheesecake. Favorite cheesecake is Banana Foster with rum sauce. I could go with that one. Now y'all are making me want dessert for breakfast. So this was a bad one. Baklava. Baklava is not cheesecake, Klyla. Stop cheating. Robert Bashir is a raspberry peanut butter cup flavor. Another one for that. And we'll end on a strawberry cheesecake. So Mike Tebow, good to see you. Everyone else as well. If I didn't say hello, Robert Bashir, it's good to see you. Tim Klyla. So, all right, my friends. Well, I hope you today. Thank you for joining me live. Appreciate all of you. Hopefully we see these gains hold on to the end of the day. Be careful though. Reprice risk is high today. Keep that in mind. Very, very likely that we could see movement. Some lenders are not going to pass along all of these gains, and the first rate sheet, you may see reprices better later in the day if the gains hold. A lot of lenders tend to look for what Ron said and see if we get any pushback. But right now, and I'll throw it on the screen just to end it one more time. Right now, mortgage bonds currently up on the day, 50 basis points is where we stand right now. 10-year treasury yield at 4.31. It's up quite a bit from that 4.27 that we saw a little while ago. It was a low of 4.25. So, hopefully this is the worst that it gets. If you do see it creep higher, again, be open to locking some loans if we see signs that we're losing ground on this. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. Every day will follow the headlines. So that's it, my friends. Appreciate y'all. Hope you have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great one. Bye-bye.